The stars had always been kind to the Veilani people. For 800 years, they lived in peace among the crystal towers of their homeworld. Their cities glowed with soft blue light. Their forests sang with the voices of a million creatures. They were scientists, artists, and dreamers. They had never known war. High Counselor Yamara stood at her window, watching the twin moons rise over the capital city. She was old now, her silver fur turning white at the edges. In her long life, she had seen many wonders. She had watched her people spread across 7 worlds. She had seen them cure diseases and build ships that could cross the galaxy. But she had never seen anything like the darkness that now filled the sky. The Kreth came without warning. Their ships blocked out the stars like a swarm of black insects. There were hundreds of them, then thousands. They hung in orbit, silent and terrible, waiting. Yamara's hands shook as she read the reports. The Kreth Dominion was known throughout the galaxy. They were conquerors. They moved from world to world, taking everything of value: resources, technology, people. They left nothing behind but empty ruins and bones. "How many ships?" she asked her aide, a young Veilani named Tyrell. Tyrell's voice trembled. "Our censors count 1,200, High Counselor. Perhaps more. 1,200 warships. The Veilani had none. They had research vessels. They had cargo ships. They had passenger transports. But they had never built weapons. They had never needed them." The first message from the Kreth came an hour later. The face that appeared on the screen was the stuff of nightmares. Hard black shell. Multiple eyes that gleamed with hunger. Mandibles that clicked and scraped as it spoke. "I am Warlord Scythicon," the creature said. "Your worlds now belong to the Kreth Dominion. You will surrender. You will serve. Those who resist will die. Those who obey may live as slaves." The transmission ended. There was no negotiation, no discussion, just a statement of fact. Yamara gathered her council in the great chamber beneath the crystal spires. The room was filled with frightened voices. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Some wanted to run. Some simply wept. "We must call for help," said Counselor Marin, an old friend of Yamara's. "The Galactic Accord. They have laws against this kind of invasion." "The Accord is far away," another counselor replied. "Their nearest fleet is months from here. We will be dead or enslaved before they even receive our message." "Then what do we do?" someone shouted. "Do we just wait to die?" Yamara raised her hand for silence. The room slowly grew quiet. She looked at the faces around her. These were her people, gentle souls who had never harmed anyone. They deserved better than this. "There is another option," she said softly. Tyrell stepped forward carrying an old device. It was covered in dust. Most of the council had never seen it before. "This is an emergency beacon," Yamara explained. "It was given to us long ago when we first joined the galactic community. It sends a signal across all frequencies. It reaches everyone within range. Everyone." Counselor Marin frowned. "Everyone? You mean even the species outside the Accord?" "Yes. But that includes—" Marin's voice trailed off. His eyes went wide. "The Forbidden Zones. The Death Worlds." A murmur ran through the council. Everyone knew the stories. Out on the edges of known space, there were worlds so dangerous that no civilized species could survive on them. Worlds of poison and fire and crushing gravity. And on some of those worlds, life had evolved anyway. Terrible life. Predator life. The Deathworlders. "We cannot," Marin said firmly. "We have no idea what might answer. We could be trading one monster for another." "We are already facing monsters," Yamara replied. "The Kreth will kill us or enslave us. That is certain. But if we send this signal, there is a chance. A small chance. Someone might come who is willing to help. Or someone might come who is even worse than the Kreth." Yamara looked at the beacon in Tyrell's hands. Such a small thing. Such a terrible choice. Outside, the sky flashed with light. The Kreth had begun their attack. The outer colonies were burning. She could see the explosions even from here. Tiny sparks of death among the stars. "Activate it," she said. Tyrell pressed the button. A pulse of energy shot outward, carrying their desperate cry for help into the void. Within minutes, the Kreth intercepted the signal. Warlord Sathakon's laughter crackled over every channel. Call for help, little prey things, he mocked. Scream into the darkness. No one in this sector will challenge the Kreth. No one will save you. You are alone. Yamara stood at her window as the first bombs fell on distant cities. Smoke rose on the horizon. Her people were dying. She hoped she had not made a terrible mistake. She hoped that somewhere out there, someone was listening. Someone who was strong enough to fight. Someone who was kind enough to care. The beacon's signal traveled outward at the speed of light. It passed through empty systems. It crossed vast distances of cold space. It touched 1,000 dead worlds. And then, in a region of space marked on all galactic maps with a single warning symbol, something received the message. Something began to move. In the command center of an old warship, a human officer looked up from her console. She read the distress signal twice. Then she picked up her communicator. Admiral Chen, she said, you need to see this. Far from Vela Prime, in the darkness between stars, engines began to warm. Crews were called to stations. Weapons were loaded. The Deathworlders had heard the call, and they were coming. 3 days passed. 3 days of fire and death and running. The Kreth moved across Vela Prime like a plague. Their soldiers landed in waves, thousands upon thousands of armored killers pouring from the sky. They burned the crystal cities. They slaughtered anyone who resisted. They captured the rest and loaded them onto prison ships. High Counselor Yamara had moved her government underground. The ancient tunnels beneath the capital had been built long ago, for reasons no one remembered. Now they served as the last refuge of a dying civilization. Reports came in every hour, each one worse than the last. The eastern continent had fallen. The great libraries had been destroyed. Millions of Velani were dead or captured, and no help had come. Yemra sat alone in a small room staring at the beacon. The device was silent now. Its message had been sent. There was nothing more it could do. I should never have hoped, she whispered to herself. We are alone. We have always been alone. The door opened. Tyrell rushed in, his eyes wide with excitement. High Counselor, a response. We have received a response. Yamara jumped to her feet. The Galactic Accord? How far away are they? No, Counselor, not the Accord. It came on a different frequency, one we have never used before. They hurried to the communications center. A small group of technicians huddled around an old radio receiver. The machine crackled and hissed with static. Then a voice spoke. Clear, calm, strange. This is the Terran United Fleet. We received your distress call. Hold your position. Estimated arrival, 14 standard hours. That was all. The transmission ended. The room was silent. No one knew what to say. Terran? Counselor Marin stepped forward, his face pale. I do not recognize that name. Who are they? One of the technicians, an old female named Sola, looked up from her console. Her hands were shaking. I found them in the old records, she said quietly. The Galactic Accord classified their files long ago. They did not want anyone to know about them. Why? Yamar asked. What are they? Sola pressed a button. A display screen flickered to life. The information was old and incomplete, but what was there made Yamara's blood run cold. Species name, humans, Terrans, homeworld, Earth, Sol system, classification, Category 12, Deathworld. Yamara had never seen a classification that high. Most dangerous worlds were Category 3 or 4. Category 12 was beyond anything she could imagine. The file continued. Surface gravity, 9.8 meters per second squared. That was nearly 3 times the gravity on Vela Prime. Any Velani would be crushed flat on such a world. Atmosphere, oxygen-nitrogen mixture, high oxidation potential. Oxygen, the burning gas. The Velani used it in small amounts for industrial processes because it destroyed almost everything it touched. These creatures breathed it. Climate, extreme temperature variations, volcanic activity, severe weather systems, frequent geological instability. Their planet was trying to kill them constantly, and they survived anyway. The final notes were marked with red warning symbols. Classification, pursuit predators, persistence hunters, social structure, pack species, highly protective of group members. Warning, do not engage, do not provoke. Do not threaten their allies. Tyrell's voice came out as a whisper. What have we summoned? Counselor Marin grabbed Yamara's arm. We must cancel the request. Tell them not to come. These creatures are monsters. They will destroy us. How? Yamara asked. We have no way to contact them. And even if we did, do you think they would listen? Marin had no answer. The hours passed slowly. The Kreth continued their assault. More cities fell. More people died. The tunnels grew crowded with refugees. Yamara moved among her people, offering what comfort she could. She saw children crying for parents who would never return. She saw the elderly sitting in silence, waiting for death. She saw the fear in every eye. 14 hours. That was what the message had said. 14 hours until the Deathworlders arrived. Some of her people prayed to old gods. Some prepared to fight with whatever tools they could find. Some simply held each other and waited. Yamara returned to the communication center. She wanted to be there when the humans arrived. She needed to see what was coming. 12 hours passed, then 13. The Kreth had detected the incoming signal too. Warlord Scythicon broadcast a message for all to hear. Someone comes to help you, he laughed. Good. The Kreth welcome new prey. We will destroy your rescuers and add their ships to our fleet. Then we will finish what we started with your pathetic species. 14 hours. The sensors detected something. Multiple signals, moving at incredible speed. They are coming out of faster-than-light travel, Sola reported. Her voice was barely steady. But something is wrong. They are not slowing down. They should be slowing down. At that speed, the forces inside the ships would... She stopped. She stared at the screen. Counselor, there are 412 ships. Yamara felt hope rise in her chest. 400! That is a significant force. Against 1,200 Kreth vessels, Marin said grimly. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in a flash of twisted light. They came in fast and hard, closer than any sane pilot would dare. Their ships were ugly things. No elegant curves, no graceful lines, just angles and armor and weapons. So many weapons. The lead ship broadcast a message. A new face appeared on every screen across the planet. It was soft, fleshy, two small eyes set close together, a flat face with a small nose, and teeth. So many teeth, exposed in what might have been a smile. This is Admiral Chen Wei of the Terran United Fleet, the creature said. We are here to help. In the tunnels beneath the capital, Yamara watched the face of a predator promise salvation. She did not know whether to feel relief or terror. Perhaps both. Warlord Scythicon stood on the command bridge of his dreadnought, watching the human fleet approach. His mandibles clicked with amusement. 400 ships, he said to his officers. They send 400 ships against 1,200. These creatures are either very brave or very stupid. Perhaps both, Warlord, his second-in-command replied with a harsh laugh. Scythicon studied the human vessels on his display screen. They were smaller than Kreth warships. They had none of the elegant design that marked the ships of the Galactic Accord. They looked rough, brutal, built for one purpose only. The Warlord had conquered 37 species in his long career. He had never lost a battle. He had never retreated. He had never known fear. He did not fear these creatures either. Open a channel, he ordered. Let us speak to these brave fools. The communication link connected. The human admiral appeared on the screen. Scythicon looked at her carefully. She was small, even for her species. Her dark hair was tied back. Her uniform was simple and plain. She did not look impressive at all. But her eyes. There was something in her eyes that made Scythicon pause. Something cold and patient. The eyes of a predator. I am Warlord Scythicon of the Kreth Dominion, he announced. You have entered space that belongs to us. Turn back now and you may live. The human smiled. It was not a friendly expression. Her teeth were flat and white, not sharp like the fangs of a proper predator. But somehow the smile was still unsettling. I am Admiral Chen Wei, she replied. You are engaged in hostile action against a species that asked for our protection. You have 60 seconds to power down your weapons and surrender. Scythicon stared at her. For a moment he could not believe what he had heard. Then he laughed. The sound echoed through the bridge. His officers laughed with him. 60 seconds? The warlord said. You give me 60 seconds? I have 1,200 ships. You have less than half that number. What madness is this? 53 seconds, Admiral Chen said calmly. Sitha Khan stopped laughing. The human had not changed her expression at all. She was not joking. She was not bluffing. She simply waited, counting down. You cannot be serious, Sitha Khan said slowly. I am always serious about war, the admiral replied. 45 seconds. In the tunnels beneath Vela Prime, High Counselor Yamara and her people watched the exchange on their screens. No one breathed. No one moved. She is insane, Counselor Marin whispered. The Kreth will destroy them. Tyrell shook his head slowly. Look at her face, Counselor. Look at her eyes. Does that look like madness to you? On the screen, Admiral Chen continued her countdown. 30 seconds. I should mention, Warlord, that we do not take prisoners during active combat. If you want to surrender, now is the time. Sitha Khan felt something strange in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it. It was doubt. He had not felt doubt in decades. He pushed the feeling away. He was Kreth. He was a conqueror. He did not fear soft-skinned creatures from some distant rock. All ships, he commanded over the fleet channel. Prepare for combat. Destroy the human vessels. Leave none alive. Admiral Chen heard the order. She nodded once, as if she had expected nothing else. Time's up, she said. Good luck. The transmission ended. For a single heartbeat, nothing happened. The two fleets faced each other across the dark void. Stars glittered in the distance. Ships hung motionless in space. Then the humans attacked. Sitha Khan had studied many species. He knew their tactics. Most civilizations fought carefully. They valued their ships and their crews. They tried to minimize losses. They sought strategic advantages before engaging. The humans did none of these things. Their ships accelerated so fast that Kreth sensors lost track of them for precious seconds. They did not form battle lines. They did not approach cautiously. They flew straight into the Kreth formation at speeds that should have been impossible. They will crash, Sitha Khan's weapons officer shouted. At that velocity, they cannot possibly. The first human ships reached the Kreth fleet. At the last moment, they performed maneuvers that made no sense. Turns that should have killed every creature aboard. Spins and rolls that required acceleration forces far beyond what any known species could survive. But the humans survived. They flew through gaps in the Kreth formation that should not have existed. They appeared behind ships that had been targeting them seconds before, and they opened fire. Kreth vessels began to explode. Sitha Khan watched in disbelief as 3 of his cruisers vanished in balls of flame, then 5 more, then 10. How are they hitting us? He demanded. Our shields should. Their weapons are not energy-based, Warlord, his tactical officer screamed. They are firing solid projectiles at relativistic speeds. The kinetic force alone is. Another explosion shook the dreadnought. Alarms blared across the bridge. Sitha Khan stared at his displays. The battle had been raging for less than 2 minutes. He had already lost 50 ships. The humans were not fighting like any species he had ever encountered. They were not trying to win a traditional battle. They were hunting. Each human ship picked a target and pursued it with relentless determination. They did not break off when damaged. They did not retreat when outnumbered. They simply kept coming. Warlord, his communications officer's voice cracked with fear. One of the human ships is hailing us. What do they want? They say. The officer paused, as if unable to believe his own words. They say to tell you that the offer to surrender is still open. Sitha Khan looked at his displays. 70 ships lost now. 80. The number climbed every second, and for the first time in his long and bloody life, Warlord Sitha Khan felt the cold touch of genuine fear. These were not creatures. These were Deathworlders. And they had only just begun. The battle in space lasted 11 minutes. 11 minutes. That was all it took for 400 human ships to break a fleet of 1,200 Kreth warships. Later, historians would study this battle for centuries. They would write books about it. They would teach it in military academies across the galaxy. They would call it impossible. But for the Kreth who lived through it, the battle was not a lesson. It was a nightmare. Human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts. They jumped in and out of faster-than-light travel in the middle of combat, something no other species would dare attempt. The calculations required were too complex. The margin for error was too small. One mistake meant instant death. The humans made no mistakes. Warlord Scythicon watched his fleet die around him. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were torn apart in seconds. Crews that had never known defeat screamed in terror as human vessels tore through their formations. "They are ramming us," his second-in-command shouted. "The damaged human ships are not retreating. They are deliberately crashing into our vessels." Scythicon could not believe it. No sane species would sacrifice ships so freely. No rational creature would throw away lives for a few extra kills. But the humans did, again and again. When the space battle ended, only 200 Kreth ships remained. They fled in every direction, jumping to faster-than-light speed, without coordinates, without plans. They simply ran. Scythicon's dreadnought was crippled, but still functioning. He watched the human fleet regroup with cold horror in his hearts. "Get us out of here," he ordered. "Warlord, we still have forces on the planet. Thousands of soldiers. Leave them!" The dreadnought jumped away, leaving the ground forces behind. On Vela Prime, the Kreth soldiers did not know that their fleet had fled. They were still hunting Velani civilians, still loading prisoners onto transports, still burning cities. Then the sky lit up with fire. Human drop pods fell like rain. They came in fast and hard, slamming into the ground with enough force to crack stone. The pods burst open, and the Terran Marines emerged. The Kreth had never faced ground combat against humans. They did not understand what they were dealing with. The first Kreth patrol to encounter a Marine squad thought they had found easy prey. Humans were smaller than Kreth warriors. They had no natural armor. Their teeth and claws were pathetically small. The patrol attacked. 60 seconds later, every Kreth in the patrol was dead. The humans moved with terrifying speed and precision. They communicated without speaking, using hand signals and electronic devices. They aimed and fired their weapons so fast that Kreth soldiers died before they even knew they were being targeted. But it was not just the weapons that broke Kreth morale. It was the humans themselves. A Kreth commander named Vethral led a counterattack against a human position. His troops outnumbered the humans 3-1. He thought victory was certain. The humans did not retreat. They did not call for help. They simply held their position and kept firing. Vethral saw one human soldier take a blast to the shoulder. The wound should have been crippling. The human shouted something in its strange language, wrapped the wound with a strip of cloth, and kept fighting. It did not stop. It did not slow down. It just kept killing. Another human was hit in the leg. It fell, crawled behind cover, and continued firing from the ground. Vethral had never seen anything like it. His soldiers were bred for war. They were trained from birth to fight and kill. But when they were wounded, they fell back. They sought medical attention. They protected themselves. The humans did none of these things. They fought until they could not move. And even then, some of them kept fighting. Vethral ordered a retreat. His soldiers ran. The humans chased them. That was the worst part. The Kreth were hunters. They were predators. They chased prey. No one chased them. But the humans did. They pursued the fleeing Kreth soldiers through the streets, through the ruins, through the forests. They did not tire. They did not stop. They just kept coming, hour after hour. Vethral's troops were faster over short distances, but the humans never gave up. Every time the Kreth stopped to rest, the humans appeared again. Every time they thought they were safe, human weapons opened fire. By the end of the first day, Vethral's force of 3,000 soldiers had been reduced to 400. The survivors tried to hide. They found an underground bunker and sealed the doors. They thought they were safe. That night they heard sounds outside, scratching, tapping, human voices speaking softly. Then silence. When morning came, Vethral opened the door. Outside, a single human stood waiting. It was a female, smaller than most of the others. She had a weapon in her hands, but she was not pointing it at anyone. "You can surrender now," she said calmly. "We will treat you fairly. You will be prisoners, not slaves." Vethral stared at her. Behind him, 400 Kreth warriors watched in silence. "Why?" he asked. "Why do you fight so hard for these creatures? The Velani are not your species. They are not your allies. You gain nothing from this." The human smiled. It was a strange expression, softer than the war faces he had seen before. "They asked for help," she said simply. "So we came." Vethril did not understand. He could not understand. The Kreth fought for territory, for resources, for power. They did not fight for strangers, but apparently humans did. Vethril dropped his weapon. Behind him, his soldiers did the same. The battle for Vela Prime was over. The humans had won. The smoke rose from the ruins of 1,000 cities. The crystal towers of Vela Prime, once so beautiful, now lay shattered across the landscape. Millions were dead. Millions more were homeless, wandering through the wreckage of their world. But they were alive. They were free. High Counselor Yamara walked through the remains of the capital. The streets she had known her whole life were now unrecognizable. Buildings that had stood for centuries were piles of broken glass and stone. Bodies lay everywhere, Velani and Kreth alike. But among the ruins, she saw something that made her stop. Human soldiers moved through the destruction, but they were not fighting. They were helping. They carried wounded Velani to medical stations. They distributed food and water to refugees. They cleared rubble with their bare hands, searching for survivors. One human, a large male with scars on his face, knelt beside a Velani child. The child was crying, alone, covered in dust and blood. The human spoke softly in a language the child could not understand, but his voice was gentle. His hands were careful. He picked up the child and carried her toward the medical station. The child wrapped her small arms around his neck and held on tight. Yamara watched this scene with tears in her eyes. These were the Deathworlders. These were the monsters from the Forbidden Worlds. These were the creatures that had destroyed a fleet of 1,200 warships in 11 minutes. And here they were, caring for children. She found Admiral Chen near the largest medical station. The Admiral was speaking with her officers, coordinating relief efforts. When she saw Yamara approaching, she dismissed her staff and turned to face the counselor. "High Counselor," Chen said, bowing her head slightly. "I am sorry we could not arrive sooner. If we had been closer, perhaps we could have saved more of your people." Yamara shook her head. "You saved us, Admiral. You owed us nothing, and you saved us. I do not have words to express my gratitude." "No gratitude is necessary. You called for help. We answered." They walked together through the ruined streets. Human soldiers nodded respectfully as they passed. Velani refugees looked at the Admiral with wonder and fear and hope, all mixed together. "I must ask you something," Yamara said finally. "I have studied your species since your fleet arrived. I have read the files. I know what your homeworld is like. I know how dangerous your kind can be." Chen nodded slowly. "Our reputation is well earned, I suppose." "That is what confuses me." Yamara stopped and faced the human directly. "You are predators. Your world is violent beyond imagination. Every part of your history is filled with war and conflict. Yet here you are, protecting strangers, saving lives. Why?" Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment. She looked out over the ruined city, her expression thoughtful. "A long time ago," she said, "humans almost destroyed ourselves. We had weapons that could burn the whole world. We had hatred that ran so deep it nearly consumed us. We came very close to extinction. What stopped you? We learned." Chen's voice was soft but firm. "We learned that the universe is cold and empty. We learned that life is rare and precious. We learned that if we did not take care of each other, no one would." She turned back to Yamara. "My ancestors made a choice. They decided that strength should be used to protect, not to destroy. They decided that we would never stand by while innocents suffered. They decided that when someone calls out in the darkness for help, we would answer." Yamara felt something shift in her understanding. The humans were not monsters at all. They were warriors who had chosen to be guardians. "The Kreth will return," she said quietly. "They will not accept this defeat. They will bring more ships, more soldiers. They will come for revenge." Admiral Chen smiled. It was a warm expression, nothing like the Cold War face she had shown to the Kreth warlord. "Let them come," she said simply. "We will be here." "You would stay," Protect us? For as long as you need us. That is what allies do. Yamara looked at the humans around her. They were so different from her people. They came from a world of violence and death. They were built for war in ways the Velani could never match. But they had crossed the stars to save strangers. They had fought and died for people they had never met. They had shown more kindness in the aftermath than many civilized species would have. Perhaps that was what it truly meant to be a Deathworlder. Not just the ability to survive on a dangerous world, but the strength to face darkness and choose to be light. Admiral, Yamara said, I would like to discuss a formal alliance between our peoples. Chen extended her hand. It was a human gesture, Yamara had learned, a sign of friendship and trust. Yamara took the hand and held it gently. The human's skin was warm, her grip was careful, controlled, so much strength, used so softly. I think that would be a good start, Admiral Chen said. Months later, the Terran-Velani alliance was formally announced. It was the first of many such agreements. Species across the galaxy, small and peaceful and vulnerable, looked at what had happened on Vela Prime and saw hope. The Deathworlders would protect them. The message spread from star to star, from world to world. It reached the dark places where predators lurked and slavers planned their raids. The message was simple. Do not touch the gentle ones. Do not harm the peaceful species. Do not prey upon the weak. The Deathworlders are watching, and when someone calls for help, they will always answer. In her office aboard the Unconquered Sun, Admiral Chen looked at a new report. Another distress call. Another species in danger. Another tyrant who thought no one would stop them. She smiled and reached for her communicator. All ships, she said, prepare for faster-than-light travel. We have work to do. Across the fleet, crews moved to their stations. Engines powered up. Weapons were checked and loaded. The Terran United Fleet jumped into the darkness between stars. Somewhere, someone needed help, and the humans were coming.